Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Garbaugust 2024, Garbaugust 3D. This is Ollie at Criminal. He made this event for August where we all drop all the Schopenhauer that we're reading and read trash instead. For the whole month of August, we read trash in all its different varieties. So much fun. Like everybody else, I look forward to Garbaugust every year. And there are themed weeks. There's a bingo card. There's all sorts of Instagram prompts. It's the whole nine yards. And I have been so far ignoring most of the prompts and just following wherever the Amazon algorithm takes me. But I made a point yesterday, of looking at the prompts, and it turns out that we are still in the week of category romances, which is for those of you who don't read romances, they are your mother's romance, your grandmother's romance. They're Harlequin romances. So they're not a normal mainstream romance novel, but rather something that is shorter and far more programmatic. And there are a whole bunch of them now. Harlequin comes out with a dozen different imprints every month. There's Mills and Boon in the UK. What's the matter, baby? You're getting restless? You gonna walk around? Huh? Oh. Ooh, some Frida yoga there. Ooh. You gonna go over to your chair? Huh? You can do it. Go ahead. You can do it. There you go. What was I saying? Oh, right. Category romance. I love category romance. I think they're fantastic. And when I noticed that the category romance prompt of Garbaugust 3D still had some legs in it, I shirtless Skyped with Sarah, the bookish knitter, who is our category queen on romance. And she said, sure, that's fine. Absolutely do it. And so I did. And last night I was coming off a day of a lot of real garbage, not the kind of garbage that's fun for Garbaugust, but the bad kind of garbage, the dumb kind of garbage, where the author thinks they're writing the greatest thing that's ever been written, but they are in fact lying, or just doing a crappy job, or both. I was coming off a lot of that in my reading when it came time for midnight, when it came time for the reading fest last night. So I did pick a category romance, but I picked a category romance that I know already I love, head over heels love, that something that I knew that I was going to enjoy, that it wasn't going to be any trouble along those lines at all. I picked a Regency romance, which is a very specific kind of historical romance set during the Regency period in England, usually a very direct echo of Jane Austen or Georgette Hare, where it's the foibles of a love affair, usually between landed aristocracy, with many a complication thrown in the way, and with the happy ending at the end. The older Signet Regency romances are very programmatic. They are very much of a type. I love them, and they are also they stick very closely to the pattern that was, I believe, laid down by Jane Austen, so that there's no impropriety at all. There's no steam. The goal here is to get the two characters wedded, not bedded. So any kind of hanky-panky will happen after the last page of the book. Now, in a contemporary Regency romance, the longer, 300-page novels with the gorgeous covers, that's not true. in those, you can get hanky-panky in chapter 2. If the author's trying really hard and got up and had their Wheaties in the morning. But not in these older romances. I love them. I have hundreds of them. I wish I had more. I wish I had a copy of every one of these that's ever been made. But they're harder and harder to find in the wild. That's why I've been so eagerly grabbing them over the years, because I never see them anymore. But this one is from the mid-1980s, and this is by Sheila Walsh. Sheila Walsh was a prolific Signet Regency romance author. I've read a few of hers. I think that I've never read this one before, but this is The Pink Parasol. This is about an earl's daughter, Cicely Merton, who loves her father, and it's hard not to. He is a pretty engaging character. But he is a spendthrift and a wastrel, and also addicted to gambling, which in the 1980s was not considered, the author thought nothing of. That's not viewed as a tragedy here, except a tragedy for his family. It's not viewed as a sickness or an addiction of any kind. And Lady Cicely knows that if she doesn't marry for money, a lot of money, the family's going to be ruined. She has younger daughters, or younger sisters. The family will be completely ruined if she doesn't marry for money. And there is a man in this story. There are a couple of men in this story. One seems likely to be her beau. It's not a match that anybody in the book wants, including her. But then there's Mr. Anstruther. He is tall and dashing. He is well-spoken and sarcastic. He's a little bit older than she is. The age gap in these older romances, not just Signet Regency romances, but as Sarah could tell you perfectly well, old vintage Harlequin romances, the age gap is usually pronounced. In some of those early Harlequins, the man is almost twice the age of the woman. It was just the way you did it. For romances for decades and decades. That was the way you did it. It's not so pronounced here. You've got this lovely cover. All these Regencies had these hand-painted covers at the time. They don't have covers like this anymore. I'm a fan of both, so I'm not bewailing the present day. But Mr. Anstruther has an imperious aunt. She is amazing. She is absolutely amazing. The narrative, Sheila Walsh refers to as Juno-esque, but also often refers to her as the size of a Cunard luxury liner. And she is wonderful. She speaks her mind. I wish the whole book had been about her. And maybe about her romantic past. What she must have been like when she was Lady Cicely's age. Oh my God. How much fun would that have been? And you know, I'm not 100% sure that Sheila Walsh didn't write that book. I don't know for sure. I've never done a study of this author. She might have done that. But Mr. Anstruther takes on the role of mentor to Lady Cicely in how to find a wealthy husband who is at least more or less acceptable to her on some sort of live with this for the rest of my life basis. And you know, as an experienced reader of romance novels, and especially an experienced reader of these old Regency romances, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. As soon as Anstruther gives her a pink parasol, you know what's going to happen. Leaving aside the Freudian imagery, please, get your mind out of the gutter. You know that in the course of his instructing her and helping her find a well-placed husband, they're going to fall in love with each other. You know that. That's not a spoiler. You know that's going to happen. The whole point of these books, these Regencies in particular, is that you know what's coming. The point isn't a surprise. The point is, how are you going to get there? Which really, if you think about it, throws the onus on the writer's ability. The writer of these old things had to do an energetic job, because they couldn't keep the ball up in the air by making you question what was going to happen during the book. That's not part of these things. And it's true in this book. This is delightfully energetic, delightfully, wonderfully readable. All the characters are done well. They comment wryly and sarcastically on each other, which I have a sweet spot for. And in addition to that, these older Regencies, the one from the 1980s, I think, ended it. Sarah might know better the exact date when that changed, although maybe not. I might know Regency romances better than she does. She knows all the rest of them better. But I know that one way or another, I know that it did change. A certain change happened. Regency authors stopped writing their novels to sound like the Regency world. And I think that happened around the 1990s. In this book, a 2024 reader would practically need footnotes for this. This has gone out of print. It will never be back in print. Most of these old Regency romances will never be back in print at all unless the author went on to become famous. Mary Baylow, for instance, wrote a lot of these old Signet Regency romances. She went on to have a mainstream career. So you could find reprints of her Regency romances. But Sheila Walsh? Who knows who Sheila Walsh was? Or what she's doing now, or if she's still alive, or if she ever went on to a mainstream career under her own name or anybody else's name. I don't know. I don't know anything about her. But during the 1980s, if you were going to write a Regency novel, it had to sound like a Regency novel. Characters had to talk that way. They had to use the slang, the idiom, the argot of the time that isn't explained in this book, because it was assumed by the authors that you knew the Regency period. Otherwise, why would you be reading a Regency romance? That is not true anymore. The Regency romances now that are put out by Avon or St. Martin or whatnot are set in ye olden days. They're set in a kind of fairy tale England that doesn't have an oppressive monarch and isn't so far away. And if you want to give your male hero a little bit of luster, well, he can fight Napoleon. There's Napoleon's out there somewhere. Napoleon's actually active he's not a character in this book, but a character in this book is directly affected by the Napoleonic Wars. That goes away in modern Regency romances. That goes, all that kind of specificality goes away. But like, for instance, Mr. Anstruther's aunt talks exactly like an imperious, wealthy woman of the ton would have talked in the Regency period. She uses all the terminology. A reader who doesn't know that terminology will go 2 or 3 pages, maybe 10 or 20 pages in this book, wondering what a gel is. Gel. Are you talking about hair gel? Is that what you're talking? Why are these characters talking about hair gel? They're not. They're not. It's not pronounced gel. It's pronounced gel. But it's not explained. You just have to know that. Same thing with when I keep going back to his aunt because I love her so much. But she says the way she abbreviates her words is all period accurate. Her references to George Brummel and whatnot are all period accurate. Their references to where Prinny is going to spend his holiday are not explained. You don't know, if you're coming to that cold, you don't know what that means. And also a favorite of mine from also the Aubrey and Maturin books, is that she's tosses around "ain't" in conversation, and there's no impropriety about it at all. It's not an anachronism. It's just I don't mean to harp on this point. It's just it struck me when I was reading this book is that this is very much a different kind of Regency romance than the kind that comes out today. A dozen new Regency romances come out from mainstream romance publishers every month, and they don't read like this at all. They still have the same kind of plot, where you kind of know from the beginning which two characters are destined to be together, and you know they're destined to be happy. You just have to wonder how they're going to get there. The main difference between this and a modern Regency romance is that a modern Regency romance will take them there through the bedroom, and this does not. But it's wonderful. I absolutely loved it. Lady Cicely is a bit of a non-entity, a little bit more than I want. A lot of times the heroine in these old Regencies is a non-entity. I was hoping for better because she's described by a number of people in the early chapters of this book as feisty, even to the point of being maybe unsociable, of being unclubbable because she's so feisty. I didn't notice that at all in the book. Once she makes an appearance, talking from behind a bush, and then when she makes subsequent appearances, she seems like putty in Anstruther's hands, which I was a little disappointed by that because these old Regencies from the 1980s don't necessarily do that. Plenty of times they do have just genuinely strong-willed heroines, and also because Anstruther's aunt is anything but putty in anybody's hands, so that was fun as well. But all in all, I enjoyed the heck out of this. Just loved it. The only mew of disapprobation, you knew I was going to mew about something in here, is more fun than anything else, because in this particular case, for this weekly category romance is on here not because Ollie or any of the rest of us connected with Garbaugust are saying that category romance is garbage, whereas men's adventure novels, most of them are garbage. Movie novelizations or tie-ins, most of them actually are garbage. That's why they're there as a prompt. That's not true with category romance. These things they can be done really well. And that always gave me a little hesitation there, but as long as you know, and I think you do, if you're a fan of Garbaugust, you pretty much know the lay of the land. Garbaugust, I am not saying that these things are garbage just by their category, so to speak. No, not at all. This is a spectrum like anything else. You can do this well or you can do this poorly. This was well done. It wasn't the best of its kind that I've read, but it was well done. So it wasn't really garbage. So and I owed myself that indulgence because I had plenty of garbage in my reading diet yesterday. Today has been a little bit better. Of course, today still has 15 hours to go, so until reading time. So I might try genuine garbage for tonight rather than this. This felt almost like cheating because these old Signet Regency romances, they're right there. They fit the category, but they aren't garbage, most of them, and I love them so much. So maybe a little bit of cheating, but we'll see what I do tonight. Maybe I'll go to Kindle Unlimited, or I could do a category romance of some kind that is not an old Regency romance. Some category romances, hoo boy, do they produce trash. I could go to one of them. I have plenty of them, so we'll see. I will bring you up to speed tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.